There it is.
Yeah.
We are back 15 rounds down, 7 to go. Unexplained absence, we'll call it, last week after we were just all over the country and not available at the same time. And that's okay. That is the joys of, much like our A-League women's teams having full-time jobs on top of being semi-professional podcast hosts. That just comes with the gig. But we are back. We've got 2 weeks to cover for you guys, a whole lot of football to catch up on. We are getting ever and ever closer to our Tillies back in camp. So let's start off with last week. How are we all, guys, first, before we jump into football? Is everyone okay? Everyone loving life? Sitting on top of the world, as Delta Goodrum once sang.
So as much as I can be, I guess. That's probably the best way to put it.
Michelle's got a voice, so that's where we're gauging things. If Michelle can talk or not, it's going to be a good episode. So let's go.
A lot of high hopes there.
And that is where we'll leave our setup for this show, guys. It's going to go many a place. First, we're going to go back a week. Melbourne City. Let's try. Actually, I might try and combine these into like 2 weeks. Going to try and be a bit sneaky here. Melbourne City have dropped 2 games in a row while we have been away, which is good for Michelle on the sky blue side of Sydney for sure. Western United going down to Melbourne and putting 3 past them with a 3-1 win a week ago. What we'll do is cover last week's games quickly. We'll come back to any highlights and things we need to touch on. Sydney went down to Melbourne as well with a 1-1 draw against the Victory. Brisbane travelled to Western Sydney to win 3-1. Adelaide back on the winning side of the scoreboard with defeating Perth as well. So that really good result to kick off a string of 2 wins for Adelaide as they downed Western Sydney this week. Wellington, under probably the most protested red card that I have ever seen in my life, still managed to get up over 2-0 over Canberra last week. And the Jets couldn't win the F3 Derby, letting 2 goals in at home here. So last week, guys, let's start on that red card, because I think the last episode we went pretty hard on refereeing and where we thought that was at. And that was almost a prime example of everything we'd spoken about the week before. Cody, in your non-technical, non-coaching, not a qualified referee speak, what was your view of that whole circumstance?
And that should be easy because I'm not qualified in just about any of those areas. No, look, I'm probably not as harsh on it as what you guys were when we were talking about it. She's kind of made a movement at the player. Players made a meal of it. It's one of those things that I know people afterwards kind of brought up, if there was VAR, would we be having these issues? If VAR looked at that, they'd probably give it as well. So I don't think that's where the issue is going to be solved. I don't know how much the referee maybe had have actually seen of it, and I'm 90% sure that referee might have been on debut. So a lot of cultural factors there, I guess you can put in a way.
It was her first centre ref game.
Yeah, it's a shame because I think she made her debut as the 4th official at Unite round, and she had her whole family there, and they were celebrating every time she had to lift the board up to do something. So she's got a good support network around her. I'll give her that. But look, you watch that decision over and over again. I probably wouldn't have given a red card. Riley Foster probably shouldn't have dove at her the way that she did. Kind of pushed her arm back a little bit, but at most maybe a yellow, and even that's probably borderline. A red card's extremely harsh for what occurred in that situation, in my opinion.
Yeah. Michelle? Yeah. Go.
Yeah, I think the red card was a bit harsh. It looks like she jumps. No, she didn't even jump. She took a step back, and then a player was behind her, and it just doesn't seem like it's a fair decision to say, oh yeah, like, she elbowed her in the stomach. And I think the Canberra player who went down was just, definitely overacting. Oscar-worthy performance. I think it was harsh. I think again, we're looking at all these sorts of issues. Like then, so Riley Foster gets a red card and they get a penalty. Obviously, Brie Edwards makes the save, which is great. Like she's a great, in my opinion, she's a really good goalkeeper. I don't think it was fair for her to be dropped down to reserve this season in the first place. But I also look at like the Melbourne Victory Sydney game as well, where Jada Wyman jumps out to punch the ball. She's already in the movement with her hands in fists already like extended, so her arms are already extended, and then the Melbourne Victory player, I think it was like Weinhardt or something, I don't know, basically ran into her fist, goes to ground. The center ref had said no penalty, but then the assistant ref, who was not in a better position, has said that it should be a penalty. And it's like, on one hand, the goalkeepers are too protected. On the other hand, they are villainous. And it's like there's no in between. Obviously the laws of the game don't play for intent. They don't counter for intent. I think Ufuk Talay said that at his press conference a little while ago for the men's game. But it is so frustrating because there's just all these black and white sort of situations when it comes to refereeing, and the step back and the elbow into the stomach could be seen as like serious foul play or whatever, and that's just by the laws of the game. And for the referee, she's looking at that and being like, okay, well, this is what the laws say. I don't have a choice but to give this as a penalty. And it's like, obviously, the rest of us are all thinking, well, it's not a pen, it's not a red, but that
just with that, Michelle, do you think she may have judged the reaction a bit more than the actual action?
Probably. I think one thing that I've noticed a lot in, maybe more so in the women's game, because maybe I'm paying more attention to it in the women's game than I am in the men's game. But like they would stop the play for stuff that doesn't matter. I remember Sydney versus Western United last season, and TJ Vlanich went up to the referee while the game was playing and complained about being hit in the head by Nat Tobin, being like, I think elbowed or smacked in the face by Nat Tobin. But it wasn't like, I don't know what happened. I don't remember what happened. But the referee stops the game in the middle of the play and gives Nat Tobin a red card. And it's like, you can't just stop the game in the middle of the play. Or maybe you can, but I think the rest of us would be thinking, why? Like, the game's already moved on. Like, none of the assistant referees have said to stop the game. No one said it except for a player from the opposition team. So it's... it feels like the reactions of players are playing into the refereeing decisions more. I could be wrong in that sense. I'm more than happy to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
I think this is one of those things where we're kind of highlighting the grey area that kind of VAR is designed to kind of fix in a way, but then VAR has kind of gone the opposite way and cotton-wooled it too much in a way. Like, well, these conversations are the things
somehow
that
makes those grey areas greyer.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. But like, you think of this, like these things that are being blown up. Probably when you've got VAR, you've got someone talking to you straight away, like, "Yep, cool, we're going to have a look at that," and you let play run instead of stopping it, and then all of a sudden, cool, all right, come back to that. That was a yellow card instead of red, penalty, boom, boom, or things like that, where it's you've got that second set of eyes and you're not judging it off people that aren't in better positions, and it's all snap. And obviously, this is the state of the game where it's got to, is that VAR has taken that kind of toll on our brains on how we think about fouls and penalties and things like that as well, because we've been dealing with that many years now. But yeah, it's interesting. I think it definitely has made the grey area greyer because of its implementation.
The thing about VAR is that, like, it's still run by referees. So if the referees in general are not getting the proper investment, the proper training, the proper education, then it's still going to be the same thing. We're still going to see the same problems. That's the issue. The underlying issue is like, are we training our referees properly? You know, are we getting the best out of our referees? Or are we just allowing everyone to kind of get a pass mark and then off you go? Here's your first A-League game. And I think that there's an issue in that. You know, I remember talking to someone not long ago in the Sydney FC fan representative group. He's a referee, and he was saying that, you know, they used to do these things where they would send, you know, referees from Australia to like Japan and do like, they would kind of see how they run it over there. And, you know, it was like an exchange program. And, you know, maybe that makes a difference. It was brought up in the FRG meeting. So, you know, hopefully that gets taken to the APL in their next meeting. But yeah, a lot of it at the end of the day just comes down to our refs being properly trained.
100%. Cody, anything more to add before we jump across?
No, I just say I have a vague memory of those exchange programs because I'm sure we had a few Japanese refs, at least in the A-League as well, that we got out of that. Different style of referee. It's even some for maybe other referees that are in the A-League in Australia to have a look at and go, oh, that looks interesting. The way he manages a game or manages a situation, maybe I'll try and implement that. Or we go over there, we see something different they do. Not to say other referees around the world are better or worse, but look, if you look at the standard in Asia, sometimes we actually don't have it that bad if you've watched the Asian Cup. But yeah, no, that's actually probably a good idea to implement again.
100%. All right, let's go back to the games. Western United have scored 5 goals in 2 weeks, which is fantastic. I think the bigger thing in here is Melbourne City dropping 2 games in a row. Yeah, fist pumps for Michelle. You said off air, Michelle, the seeing Canberra get up. I like Canberra getting a dub here this week. Huge in just their season, full stop. But to get it against Melbourne City, I would say that's even bigger considering how their season has played out in terms of getting their points. Obviously, huge on the scoreboard too. Sorry, the table scoreboard, same thing. But you mentioned the Sydney victory game, 1-1 draw. Were you satisfied with that result, or do you think that should have been a win on your side?
I was fuming. We were robbed. We should have won that game. We were a much better side by far. With no disrespect to Melbourne Victory, maybe a little bit, but we were definitely the better side in that game, and we definitely should have won. But yeah, just overall frustrating results, frustrating situation. Not much that we can do.
That's turn it around and you win next week. That's what you can do, Michelle. You know, 1 week at a time, right? Cody, let's touch on both your real home team and the team you support real quick. Western Sydney have dropped 2 games running as well after a good little streak. That has come to an end and they've kind of done a full Yui. Brisbane, on the other hand, have kind of managed to kind of turn things around and then lose it again in the last 2 weeks. Where are you seeing Western Sydney right now? Is there anything that's kind of come out of these last 2 weeks that you're like, not too sure about this? Or Brisbane, on the other hand, what's going through your head there?
I'll start with Wanderers. The first game against Brisbane, I thought they probably should have come out as the winners in that match. They didn't play too bad. It was just a few stupid errors that kind of let them down. Stupid, maybe a bit harsh. It was a few simple things. The first goal, McComiskey just didn't. Attacker got on the wrong side of her. She didn't track the run properly. Then a deflection, a corner. There's not much that I don't think you can ask more from Wanderers.
Yeah.
And the way they were going forward, they still looked like they were going to create a few chances. Brisbane, but to their credit, played well, set up defensively very well, saw out a result that they probably needed themselves. So there's not much you can say in that regard. But then the game in Adelaide, it was actually something. I had a chat with Robbie Hooker about that after the game and just said, I asked him how he bounces back from that. He said he'd have a look at his lineup. Maybe a few players who've started a lot of games in a row need a bit of rest. And you look at their run that they've gone on, they haven't changed their lineup once. Maybe a few people have changed either coming out of the squad or going onto the bench, but the starting 11's been staying the same for a very long time. And he said he'd review it to see if, maybe a few players need rest if they're a little bit overworked. But he also mentioned the last time he did that, they went and lost again, basically. So it was he said the last time he rotated his squad was the Adelaide game that they lost. So took a risk, goes to Adelaide, still plays the same 11 that's been starting for a while now, and you lose a game late. I think fatigue's starting to set into this side. You've got a lot of players playing a lot of football. I think maybe you probably should look at maybe giving a couple of players a rest, even if it's not wholesale changes. It doesn't need to be, but maybe something just to freshen up the side. Not to say that anyone's deserving of being dropped because they're playing poor, but it's just more a thing of you've got tired legs. It's something that does need to be addressed, really. But Adelaide, they're playing some good football now, aren't they? They've been playing good football for a while. So, what, results finally go their way, things are starting to click a little bit. It's good for them too. And while I was talking to Robbie, actually, because he made mention of the fact that he's got to go to Adelaide, and I looked at him just after I finished interviewing, and I'm like, by the way, Adelaide's just won against Perth. And he's like, that's what happened the last time we played against them. They won their first game of the season, and they come to us and they beat us. So I think he kind of had a feeling Adelaide were going to be a side rejuvenated, and guess what? They were.
Feeling good in Adelaide town, hey. Michelle, anything to add? Western City, Brisbane, Adelaide. We'll touch on Perth in a second.
Yes. So I think, Cody, you're right. I think Brisbane definitely had the better game, especially the second half. I think they kind of came out firing for the second. Sophie Harding was so unlucky. There was a moment where she pretty much just ran the ball up the wing, cut in, and then Malia Morris took the ball off her and hit the crossbar. And in that moment, I'm just thinking that was Sophie Harding's moment to score. If she had a better touch, because I think what happened there was that the ball, as she was running, the ball got away from her for a second, and Malia Morris was standing there, ready to receive. But clearly, it looks like Sophie was ready to kind of take the shot because the Brisbane keeper was in no man's land, and it was literally Sophie Harding basically on the penalty spot, and Malia Morris came in and hit it too hard and too high and hit the crossbar, and I think at that point it was still 1-1 or 2-1 or something, and it could have really brought Western Sydney back into the game, and she was unable to. But Holly Casper's scoring again, as she does. The Caspers girls are killing it, which is things that we like to see. We want to see these young players doing well. They're tearing this league apart, and from all accounts, from people that I know who've played with them, coached against them, they are the real deal, and they are absolutely unreal. And it's fantastic that we're able to witness it before they tear Europe apart whenever they decide to go. That's all I have to say, because I did not watch Adelaide Perth because I was very busy. But that Western Sydney Brisbane game, Western Sydney looked like Western Sydney from back in the day. Didn't look like the best performance.
Could Western Sydney be coming down to experience as well, with how young kind of the rest of the squad is? They've got kind of that core that has the experience, but when you look at, I think they've got 2 16-year-olds pretty regularly on the bench. Like, is there a kind of a lacking experience that's then lacking minutes to continue on in the second half and close games out?
I don't know, because you look at a lot of other sides, there's a lot of teams in the competition that are in that position where you've got a handful of actual older, experienced players, and then the rest of the side is a very youthful team. I think the only side that would really have an overwhelming amount of experience in this competition is Melbourne Victory. So, look, maybe to a certain extent, but I wouldn't put that down as the sole reason, because every week you're going up against sides that 9 times out of 10 are going to be in the same position. So it's not an excuse I'd use if I'm part of a Wanderers camp. But
Yep.
I think they were a side that was probably running a bit more on form. They've had a hiccup. It's about how they kind of work through this period where it's like, okay, we've lost a couple of games now. How do we get ourselves out of this rut? It's more of a test of their character, I think, and how they go in the face of adversity. That'll be the real test to see if they're actually finals contender or not.
100%. Perth Glory losing 2 on the run, now outside the top 4. Luckily, there are 2 extra spaces this year in finals. Remember that for anyone that hasn't been playing along, we have gone from 4 to 6 in finals this year as well. So extended spots there. So this could make a huge difference for those kind of outlying teams. But very interesting seeing Perth kind of have a little bit of a hiccup, and it's kind of derailed how strong they were looking at the top throughout the first half of the season. Now comes the true test of form, and I think this is kind of the moment that we were talking about after the first few weeks. Every time I was like, oh, this team looks good, you guys were like, come on, pump the brakes, just wait. And here we are seeing that come to fruition. Obviously going away to Adelaide and losing, and then traveling to Sydney and losing. Obviously, Michelle, super happy about that. But where do you see this Perth team at the moment, guys? Like, do they hold on? Can they stay strong for the last 7 weeks and pick up those wins and points to make sure they stay in that top 6, if not push for one of those top 4 spots?
It's funny, actually. They started off the season being this really, really cool attacking force without Millie Farrow really getting in and amongst the goals. She got that hat-trick against Melbourne City. And this is, look, I'll be honest, this is actually how a Perth journalist friend of mine described it to me, who has been at every Perth game this season. There's been a shift in almost their mentality where instead of playing this free-flowing attacking football and letting the responsibility rest on the shoulders of multiple players, every time they go forward now they start to kind of single out Millie Farrow, look for her and try and have everything feed through her. And it's actually been to the detriment of the side. And there's journos in Perth that are pulling their hair out going, we can see this from a mile away. We're not qualified to be a coach in no way, shape or form. But Alex Apakis is continually doing nothing to address it. So there seems to be a fundamental issue there in the way Perth are playing. And if it's something that isn't addressed and it's something that they continue to kind of let slide and they struggle to get goals away, they struggle to get points on the board, I wouldn't be surprised if they finish outside their top 6, because Wanderers, look, say what you want about them, to end the season, they've got a decent run of games at home. They've still got a game in hand on the teams above them until they play that Canberra match, which isn't a guaranteed 3 points anymore. Canberra look like they're starting to get things together, but there could be danger signs. There's sides underneath them that are going to be pushing for the top 6. I don't think there's a side in this competition that I'd say are out of finals contention yet, as much as some may be a bit of a struggle. But to put it simply, you've got, 7 games left. Canberra have 8, and they're 9 points off the top 6.
Yeah.
It's extremely tight. So
Off the top 4 even. Like, it's really not that far.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Look, I'm not saying Canberra's going to finish in the top 4 or anything. That'd be a wild claim. No offense to Canberra.
That would be a wild end to the season if they do that.
Yeah. I wouldn't complain about it. It'd be fantastic viewing, but I don't see it happening. But the point is, mathematically and realistically, it's not.
Sorry, you don't have home advantage now. Sorry, that's it.
No, but no, that's what I mean. Like, the competition's incredibly tight. If Perth let another couple of results slip, other teams are going to pick up those points, and other teams are going to get above them. So it is something that internally they probably do need to rectify.
Yeah. Perth, just statistically, 2 points from the last 5 games.
I also wonder with Perth, obviously there's a lot of news going around the club at the moment, a lot of issues financially and just in general. So I wonder how much of that plays into the women's team. You know, we've seen issues with the men's team, and you know, them winning at home in front of their home supporters was quite special to see, I think, and like the shed looked like it was going off. But when we look at the women's team, they tend to be, on the back burner a bit. And I think it's kind of maybe it's a coincidence that their lack in form has kind of coincided with the news that's kind of coming out. So I don't want to say that like it's all because of the issues going on at the club, because that would be ridiculous. But I'm sure it plays a part in the mind of the players. I'm sure it, I don't know what happens at their trainings now. Where are they training? Is it different to? I assume it might be different to the men's. I know not every women's team trains at the same facilities as their men's teams do. So yeah, I just wonder how much of this like news comes into play at in the women's team.
Interesting. Canberra lose to Wellington in New Zealand, not surprisingly, but then come home and knock off the big dogs in Melbourne City. Probably one of the biggest wins for Canberra this year to kind of snap a streak of results that didn't swing their way, get a crucial 3 points to keep them in touch with having a chance in these last 7 games of potentially sneaking 5th or 6th. How much does a win like this change the mentality of that Canberra team right now, who have just knocked off the team that has scored the most, who has defended pretty well, not the best in the league by any chance, but has consistently put up figures? What does this do to Canberra's mindset going into these last 7 weeks? Is it a let's just throw everything and see what happens? Or yeah, Cody?
If they're not already thinking in that regard, then
there's trouble.
Their head's not in the right spot. You're in a league with no relegation. You're 9 points away. You're kind of in the fight. You should already be thinking, let's just throw everything and trying to make sure we get finals. In reality, what do they have to lose? It's funny, actually, we just spent a good 5 minutes talking about the situation at Perth Glory. That's who Canberra have to play next. So, look, this win could ultimately mean nothing if they don't go and kick on with it. But you've got an opportunity. You've knocked off the biggest team in the competition, or the best team in the competition so far. And now you're playing one of the most out-of-form sides next, albeit away. That's an opportunity to get 6 points from 6, and suddenly you're looking a little bit different. Let's just say they get that. Other games go their way in terms of the result. You're only going to get up to 11th. Brisbane's still that little bit further away, but every 3 points you get puts you closer to where you've got to be. Let's just say Mariners Wanderers don't pick up points. You may still only be 11th, but you're 4 points off finals. Any chance they only get points on the board, they've really got to make sure they take. And in a game that is winnable, opportunities like this are going to be rare for them, or not rare per se, but are going to be tough for them moving to the end of the season. You take the chances while you are now, because you don't want to be 3 games away from the season finishing and needing to win all 3 games and results going your way. The more work you can do now, even if it is a little bit late, better position you'll be in. So I'd be surprised if they're not throwing everything they can at it. The mentality of the side is they want to be playing finals, according to Vesna Milivojevic, at least, when I spoke to her at Unite round. But yeah, 100%. I think they'll be doing everything they can to make sure that at least the next few games, that Melbourne City win doesn't amount for nothing.
Michelle, anything to add on Canberra?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's a lot of confidence they can take from, winning against the top team. So, I mean, good for them, I guess. And thanks for doing me a solid. Not much else to say.
Makes the title race a lot more interesting.
100%. Closes that. So we're now...
That's what I'm saying.
3 points.
Thanks.
Between first and
7 points between the top 5 at the moment. So 3 points between Western Sydney, Sydney, and Melbourne, Sydney. It's Melbourne City at the moment. So yeah, definitely makes that title race a lot more interesting. It's going to be a very, very exciting downhill run towards the finals, guys. Like, with how crazy some of the results have been, some out left field kind of wins, and how close this mid-table is, it's going to be very interesting who's in with a sniff come those final couple of weeks.
Melbourne City, Sydney FC this weekend as well.
Yeah, there's some big games coming up as well.
You going down to that, Michelle, or are you going to Gosford?
Mariners away is a lot cheaper than going back to Melbourne for a weekend.
But best away day, though. Let's go. Wrapping things out, Jets lose to the Central Coast 2-0. Kaya Simon makes her return to the pitch for her first minutes off the bench in those games. I think, did she come off the bench again against Western United? I don't think she started, did she? Let me find that. Hold up. I will do my due diligence. Played in Hobart too this week.
She did. She came off the bench.
Yeah, off the bench. Yeah, cool. So not saying that she's probably in with a shot with the Olympics around the corner, but she's back after, I think it was 300 and something days on the sidelines, 390 odd or something like that. But Jets then hold out Wellington at home, still keeping the ball rolling. Serena Bolden is on fire. I know she's not an Aussie, but I'll keep mentioning it because Newcastle are doing something well. Let's go.
She is very fun to watch.
I think the biggest piece of news to come out of the A-League while we've been away is Lydia Williams going in for surgery. I think it was her ankle. Am I right? Yep. Perfect. So Lydia Williams, I think that pretty much rules her out for the Olympics, depending on, obviously, the severity. But what's that, 7 months to rehab a surgery? I can't see her being fit and ready for an Olympic spot. So even though we're probably only taking 2, opens that door up if the likes of Jada Wyman or someone else has a really good end to their season. Could be very interesting, but we wish Lydia the speediest of recoveries and hope to see her back on the pitch soon. Anything we've missed in Australia, guys, before we jump overseas?
I don't think so. I think that covers everything. Unless I'm missing something very, very big.
I think one thing, in terms of we can talk about it a bit later as well, but the Lydia's obviously out. Obviously Tegan Micah and Mackenzie Arnold will be the 2 goalkeepers that go ahead. But there's been a lot of shouts about Morgan Aquino, who saved a penalty against Princess Abini.
Yep.
And I was talking to a lot of people about this because everyone's like, oh, Prinny missed the penalty. Nah, she hit it well. She hit it so well, but Morgan Aquino's save was absolutely unreal. That was such a good save. I can't even be mad about it. I remember watching that and just being like, that was unreal. Like, that was so good. That's such a good save. Like, you're at the game, you're watching it, and obviously you're annoyed because it's like, oh, we could have gone 2-0 up or 2-1 up. And then she makes that save. It's just, I think it's worth talking about because, it was just a great moment for Morgan Aquino. And obviously Sydney went on to win 3-1. But, and in saying that, Courtney Vine is looking good. Like, she's back in form. I think last season, she played for the Matildas, but then wasn't really scoring all that much and kind of dipped in her scoring form a bit. But this season, she's kind of come back with a vengeance, and she's been, she's found her feet again, found her scoring boots, and I think that can only be a good thing for Sydney, for the Matildas, and also Chloe Lagazzo, who is just in some of the best form that she's been in the last, 3 or 4 years. Like, she's had a lot of problems with injuries, with clubs just not playing her and, moving around and from country to country and whatnot, and just really unlucky. And then obviously very unlucky last season to be as injured as she was. But this year, like, I couldn't be happier for her. She's playing well. She's in the form of her life. And I hope that she will make that Olympic squad, because if there's someone who deserves it, I think it's Chloe Lagazzo for sure.
100%. Cody, anything for Australia before we pack our bags, my friend?
No, I've probably had pay homage to Chloe guys as well. I remember bringing it up about maybe getting the call up against Uzbekistan coming up, but yeah, I understand her form's continued. She's putting herself back in the Matildas frame, maybe getting her in for a competitive game before the Olympics wouldn't do her any harm. So where's the hashtag? Call up Chloe Lagarde. I don't know. I'm not a marketing guy. I can't come up with something fancy.
Cody, you sound so much older than you actually are when you speak like that, my friend. It's embarrassing sometimes, but we love you for it. And
Really?
that's okay.
I thought I sounded
You
younger.
no, people know what hashtags are, Cody.
Oh, fuck.
All right, let's pack our bags and go to the WSL, guys. Chelsea carry on winning without Sam Kerr at the helm. 2 3-0 wins back-to-back. First over Brighton and then over Everton last week. Chelsea are looking very strong at the moment, and it's going to be a good, interesting fight to see who kind of can tackle them down the top. Really only Man City kind of within striking range at the moment, especially after Arsenal stumble this week, but we'll get to that in a second. Sorry, Michelle. Didn't mean to rub that in too much. It's all right. We do love you. Leicester City also beat Everton 1-0. So Claire Wheeler and Everton are kind of on a slip and slide at the moment, which isn't good because West Ham have managed to find form the last 2 weeks, guys. They've gone and splashed some cash in the transfer market in early January, and it looks like it's going to pay off. Man City beat Tottenham 2-0. West Ham beat Bristol 2-1. And I believe Kat Gorry got player of the game for both of these games in the WSL as well. So great start to her league career. Arsenal did beat Liverpool 2-0 and then managed to fall 2-1 to West Ham this week just gone. Man United beat Brighton this week 2-0. Liverpool, Tottenham drew, and Man City beat Leicester 2-0. So our Aussie girls are performing pretty well in the teams that are performing, I would dare say. Claire, my computer's not working at the moment, so I can't see minutes or anything at the moment.
I think Claire's actually been one of Everton's best performers in recent weeks.
Yeah, she's holding down that midfield, which is really good.
As much as she can, really.
Yeah, it's kind of plugging a hole there, trying to like stop as much as she can. Obviously, I think Arsenal's going through a really weird period with their lineup. Now they're kind of getting more. They've sold a whole heap of people, and bought a whole heap of new people in, and it's kind of fluctuating minutes as well, which is going to be interesting to see how Kyra kind of locks down her minutes in that midfield role. I think even Ford has struggled to kind of get that consistent time like she was at the start of the year as well.
Ford's all right. It's more Catley that's been kind of the loser.
Yeah,
of the
I knew
last
it was one of them
window.
actually. Yeah, it was Catley. Yeah, sorry. I knew it was one of them. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that all lays out, especially now that they've kind of got their full attack in swing with Miedemar back, Williamson's back at the back as well. This is the Arsenal team we were kind of all scared of on paper at the start of the year. But yeah, very interesting there. Anything to add in the UK, guys? Anything that we've missed here? Obviously, I think Charlie's been getting regular minutes too with Tottenham. West Ham have won 2 games in a row, which before the break we were like, they need to turn something around, went and splashed some cash, and it looks like it's done the job, which is great because it looks like it's alleviated some pressure from Mackenzie Arnold in goal there too, which definitely is good. But is there anything that's come up this week that's been on your radar that I have missed in that little spiel there?
I'd probably say Mackenzie Arnold. It's amazing what an improvement in confidence you get as a goalkeeper when you're not having to face 10, 15 shots a game and end up conceding 3 or 4 of them. Look, I don't know how much you put down Arsenal's goal on the weekend to Arnold. I know she came out for it, but if I'm in Arnold's position, I'm pissed off at my defender that they headed away directly to an Arsenal player when I'm coming out to punch it. But look, her being in form is only good for the Matildas. We've got 2 keepers in world-class clubs as much as Micah's not playing. And even if Lydia Williams is injured, you've got keepers like Jada Wyman able to perform at a good level in the A-League. So if there's anyone that still needs to put pressure on our two, I guess, main keepers now, there's still that element there. So, look, fantastic work for Arnold. Hopefully her form continues. Millie Borton, I know we spoke about her and her time at Ipswich. I'm pretty sure the dual contract means she can play youth football with Tottenham as well, because she was named in the under-21s, I don't know what their under-21s competition's called, but whatever it is, she was named in their team of the week.
Okay.
So, more
Look at us learning about contractual obligations in
Mate,
the UK.
I saw that term come up and I was like, what the fuck? This is confusing.
Anything to add on the UK, Michelle? The mic is yours.
Yeah, very frustrating that Steph Catley gave away the penalty in the West Ham game. It just initially I thought it was outside the box, and I was like, oh, it's a bit unlucky that they're giving it as a penalty. But it was also just like a bit of a silly sort of maneuver, and like she knew instantly as well what she had done. And Steph's a very experienced player, and she's a defender. These things happen, but it was just in the moment it felt very silly. But we had lost all the momentum at that point as well. Arsenal was just not there. They were not in the game at all. As soon as Leah Williamson came off, it was just very dire. But yeah, Minnie is having a great game. Like every week she's having a great game, and I think it's great to see. Especially she posted on her Instagram story how her kid had been sick in the back seat of the car, all over the back seat, and she had to drive home, clean her up, put her to bed, and then drive back to the ground, and still made it in time for warm-ups. So just goes to show the kind of player that she is, the kind of person that she is. So, no matter what, people like Joey Barton say, like some of these players are absolutely incredible for what they have to do to, not only be a professional player, but to be a mum at the end of the day as well.
Yeah.
So, no, I just thought it was, and then like to put on the performance that she did in that game as well. Like you wouldn't have even thought that like she had left early, come back, and then did the warm-ups quickly. Like you would not have even thought that. Like, so no, it just goes to show the kind of player that we have in Katrina Gorry. And I think West Ham has really like hit the jackpot with her and the squad.
Yeah.
So no, shout out Minnie, because she's great. Good for her.
That was a great move for her too. Like, you think she could have gone the summer without kind of playing football, could have waited for a contract in 6 months' time somewhere, and managed to pick up probably one of the most, like after the World Cup she had where she was on the tip of everyone's tongues, to now go into the WSL and just do the exact same thing. Let's go. Killing it. All right. Overseas. PSG dropped points to Fleury this week with a 1-1 draw, dropping points, me assuming that they're going to win. My bad, but they did pick up a draw. In France, Lyon beat Reims 4-1, and Paris FC beat, is that Lille? Yeah, it's Lille. 3-2 as well. And I believe Real Madrid had a pretty big win this week as well in the F.
Rashford actually got no minutes in that one.
Interesting, which is what we thought she would get with Caicedo out for the rest of the year. And it was a 7-1 win against Valencia too. Oh, I thought Caicedo was out for a while.
No,
she's back already.
She was just going to come back. I think it was more like a 6-12 week injury, which
I felt like it was like a long period. There you go. Okay.
She was playing in the Champions League, wasn't she?
Yeah, I don't know why I thought like it was going to be like long term. My bad. No minutes. Interesting. Keep an eye on Spain. Perfect. Let's do a quick look at what is to come. So coming up ahead, we have Western Sydney hosting Newcastle. It is only a 5-game week this week. Adelaide and Wellington don't play this week. Not too sure why, but we will figure that out and come back to you with an update. Western Sydney host Newcastle. Central Coast host Melbourne Victory. Melbourne City hosts Sydney. Perth hosts Canberra. And Western United hosts Brisbane this week. So big games for Melbourne City and Sydney this week, I would dare say. As well, I think as Perth and Canberra. That's definitely one of those ones to watch as well. I'm excited. We're on the downhill run now, guys. Don't we just love it? This week, let's go. Fire up. All right, we have, what's that? Math. 8 weeks left in the WSL. Man City and Chelsea. We've got big hitting games this week. Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal, United, Brighton, Liverpool, Everton, West Ham, Tottenham, Villa, and Leicester City, Bristol. So an Aussie featuring in every single game across the 6 in England this week, which isn't that just great to say? How, like, Aussie
Shows our
takeover.
improving reputation that we can have that many players playing in a foreign league and one of the best leagues in the world, that no matter what game you tune into this weekend, you're going to be able to watch an Aussie. Love to see
Pretty
it.
cool. Football around the clock over the weekend, guys. Watch the afternoon games here, stay out for an extra 4 hours, and then watch the night games. Welcome to Europe football. Here we go. In Spain, let's go there real quick just because I've got it open. Real Madrid head to Real Betis, and Huelva play Athletic this week. And in France, it's a lot easier, guys, I'll tell you. Only having to look at 3 leagues instead of the 7 that we were looking at the start of the year.
I think that the Melbourne Sky's not too far away, so that'll be spanning
Don't
the
do that
works
to
too.
me, Cody. My brain just took a break. Paris FC head to Bordeaux. And we've got Lyon and PSG up against each other this week in France. So Ellie Carpenter v. Claire Hunt in Paris. All right, it is that time of the week where I hand the microphones over to Michelle and Cody to hear all their hot takes. What's on your mind this week, guys? Is there anything we've missed? Anything you want to bring up to our listeners at home? Yeah, fire away. The floor is yours.
You can start with this one, Michelle, because I actually don't know if I've got anything in my head.
Oh God, neither do I.
Michelle, you had this look on your face like you just like pulled up a list on your phone. You're like, cool,
Nah.
let's fire up.
I think my one thing would be is like, oh my God. So I went to number 2 Sports Ground. I decided to go watch Newcastle play Wellington. Haven't been able to go to like a neutral game in a long time, so decided to go. And oh my God, like, I don't know if it's the club, I don't know if it's the city, I don't know if it's the APL, but someone needs to sort out these bathrooms because there was no toilet paper in the women's bathroom. There was like 4 stalls that had there's like 10 in there, and 4 of them had no toilet paper. Not to mention the place is disgusting. There's like no soap left in the soap dispensers. You can't even dry your hands anywhere. Yeah, man, that place is gross. That is like actually disgusting. So sort yourself out, Newcastle, because that's terrible. Like it is disgusting. Like those bathrooms stink. And yes, there's no toilet paper. I don't know if the people who run Newcastle know this, but women need toilet paper. And there's also no sanitary bins. So yeah, you guys suck. Do better.
Well, we said hot take, and that definitely was a hot take. We will pass that straight on to the board of directors up here and get that fixed for you, Michelle.
Yeah, good.
No stress. Cody, it doesn't have to be a full hot take as Michelle, but anything to scratch an itch on your brain, or get anything off your chest that you haven't been able to in the last 2 weeks.
No, I was, one thing actually I'd say, we brought up Morgan Aquino earlier in the piece, and some people suggesting that she should probably she should be in the Matilda squad for the upcoming qualifiers. if anything, and I said this on Twitter, I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but it does show a gap where we don't have a 23 side that does play regular football. I think the last time they did anything competitive was when they went to the AFF Championship in Thailand. I think it's harder than it looks because unfortunately the AFC don't really pay a lot of attention to women's football, and there's no regular tournaments for an under 23 squad. But it'd be cool if the Football Australia could even get like a mini tournament going here or overseas, where you get a couple national teams together, something like the Tournament of Nations that we had with the Cup of Nations. I can't remember what we called it, which one was here and which one was in America. But if we could get that with a few 23s teams and get them playing competitive football, that's where you can bring in kind of the likes of your Morgan Aquinos, your Daniela Galliches, where they're probably petering on the Matilda squad, and this doesn't apply to Daniela Gallich because she can play in the 20s still, but petering on the Matilda squad, but aren't quite there yet, but they're too old to play in the 20s where they would be able to get competitive football in a Matilda setup. So I think that's something to think about, something that I'd like to see. We have a lot of good under 23s talent, and it would be cool to see them in a Matildas jersey, but unfortunately they're not at the Matildas level yet. So a young Matilda, we already have a young Matildas. Ollie Tildas, I don't know if that's what you want to call it. Instead of Ollie Roos, Ollie Tildas. But something like that. It costs money, I understand, but
they don't play in the Olympics. That's why they're the Ollie Roos.
Yeah, well, I know the Matildas don't play in the Olympics for their 23, so I needed to come up with something on the spot, Michelle. Please cut me some slack. I said before, I don't have a good marketing brain.
I'm just telling you.
Michelle's second hot take of the week. Cody's ideas are not good.
No, a 23 team is a great idea.
100%.
A 23 team is a great idea, but they won't be able to be called the Ollie Matildas because that would imply that they play in the Olympics.
Well, you never know. Maybe one day in the future things will change and they do play in the Olympics. And then you can
I think they should do it now.
Oh, I think yes. Why are you disagreeing with what I'm saying?
Because she's
disagreeing with the name. She's not disagreeing with the idea.
Thank you.
All I'm saying is, Michelle, speak it into existence. Ollie Tildas, let's go.
I think the Olympics, they should just move to the same as the men's. They should have it should be under 23s with like 3 senior players, because the whole reason it is under 23s in the men's is because they're not supposed to be professional players, because the Olympics is supposed to be like an amateur event, which is why they have to use headgear when they're boxing. But the women's players,
Olympics boxing though. I reckon it's better than actual boxing.
But the Matildas, the women's football is supposed to be, because then a lot of them are semi-professional, so they're not actually a professional, environment or whatever. But then it's like, and obviously they're not in the Olympics this time. But Team GB, like, they all play in the WSL. They're all professional footballers. Like, that's not fair. Imagine sending
We're moving into a space in women's football where it is becoming increasingly professional around the world. So
yeah, well, imagine like, Viv Miedema goes up against Morgan Aquino. Like, Viv could probably play under 23 still, but no, not anymore. But you know what I mean? Like, she's just very professional, has been playing for a very long time, and if
you have the overage rule, you'd still get that possibility, but at least Vivian
Miedema but you only have 3 players.
Like Jill Roord and everyone else around her.
Well, not Jill Roord.
Not anymore. R.I.P. Jill Roord.
The first person that popped into my head.
Oh, guys, this was the first time we got into this part of the episode and haven't spoken about an ACL. I was going to see if we could go one episode without bringing ACLs. Jill, we're with you.
R.I.P.
You're not
Jill.
Aussie, but
sorry,
we're out there.
Rip.
Well, anyway, point is, under 23s Matildas, let's get some games for them. That's my whole point.
Let's do it.
Ollie Tildas. You heard it here first, guys.
I hate that name.
I'm just going to keep saying it's pissy off.
But it have to be Ollie Matildas. It has to be Ollie Matildas.
Yeah, that just sounds silly.
I agree.
It's too many syllables. It's too many syllables.
I also think all the names are silly. I'll take that.
Australian under 23.
I mean, Australian sport in general. Like, if you look at some of like our sporting teams, like, they make no sense.
I'm aware.
I think, let's just leave it there.
You know what else I hate?
Makes sense.
You know what else I hate? The sponsored names. that's a discussion for another day.
Oh,
I mean, you don't like the Convent Matildas?
Oh, I hate it so much.
but
Well,
money,
the Subway
Michelle.
Socceroos, there's a bit of onomatopoeia there.
I hate it.
But
Guess the only other country that does it.
Ireland?
New Zealand.
Oh, fuck.
Well, what does that say about Oceania?
Exactly.
It says there's no fucking money down here.
Yeah, literally. All right, guys. This is another episode of the Talking Tillies podcast. If you guys haven't already, come and find us on Instagram. We're pretty chill over there. You know, we're always around. Social content is coming when we're not flying around the country and doing all our own random little side jobs that actually like are our full-time jobs. It will be there. We love you guys. So make sure you come say hi at Talking Tillies on all the social networks that you can find. We're going to be back next week with a brand new episode of the show with every fiber of our being. If we haven't been screaming at players on a field, singing all our songs. And yeah, that is going to be us for another week. Catch you guys on the flip side. And if you haven't already, make sure you leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening to this podcast right now. It'll help us boost to the top of the charts and make sure more people hear about what we have to say. Between now and the Olympics, we are on the countdown to Olympic qualifiers versus Uzbekistan. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode of the show. Goodbye.